You guys can't see over here in this corner. I'm sorry. So it says, what is freedom?
I think that freedom is whatever you want it to be or whatever your heart desires.
Freedom is something that will make life perfect.
Am I free? I thought that I was kind of, but then when I look at it, I'm like, I'm not free. Freedom is what you want it to be, but it's also how you see it yourself. Freedom is just like one of those things that just like, it's there and it's not there.
This is a spiritual, it's a Negro spiritual. And for this spiritual, people were singing in it. And this one I'm just going to let speak for itself. Now, keep in mind, this is before the end of slavery. This is before the end of the Civil War. This is typically what you would have heard when you were thinking of what it meant to say a Negro spiritual. And this will lead us into other practices like gospel and stuff. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom.
Did this with a fade out marker because we don't know that we're still oppressed by media and what goes on in the world today. We're so comfortable in our places that we choose to be oppressed. And I think that people should question themselves whether or not they're so free or not.
Mine is be your own free, and by this I just mean be whatever you need to be in order for you to feel free. Yes.
Equality is if you're equal and you have equal rights, that it's hard to be happy when you're being oppressed and you don't have the rights that other people have and you feel like you're not free. It's hard to focus on what makes you happy.
I said two things. One is not better than the other, which means that, just because you don't have to be like loud or live in high standards and then treat someone that doesn't look like you, treat them differently.
I had the lady that had, this girl, and she's like, has the water, and then she's gonna watch people. She's like, guarding it.
Pretty awesome.
It says, love the Skittles.
Love and Skittles? Explain it.
You see, because there's been a lot of hate on the Skittles. That's what I call myself. I call myself a Skittle. And a unicorn.
In your life?
I believe like freedom is like it's kind of like what you believe it is. It depends on the person. It's not something that you can attain. Just it's what you believe your freedom is. Like you could be a bum on the street doing nothing with your life. But if you believe that's your freedom, then that's going to be your freedom. So it exists only as a state of mind, not a state of matter.
See, a mental construction, like it's all in here of what you're creating is freedom or not freedom. And you're talking more.
I want to say like freedom is living way above or just like transcendentalize like consequences and stuff like that. Because like I said about the restrictions, Yeah, we all have those and stuff. You know, and sometimes our freedom may take effect upon someone else's freedom. And hey, that's fine. But when it comes to freedom, I just say, like me, sometimes I feel free. And when I feel free, what? My ego is like, boom, it's just like all over the place. You know, I don't really care about anything, honestly. You know, so I just take it upon myself to be myself because no one can tell me any different. That's what I think free is.
Sounds like it also, like a word that you could possibly attach to it is confidence,
Yes. Yes.
like self-esteem.
Self-esteem.
Sort of
It builds your
self-love sort of thing.
self-esteem, yeah.
So again, it's kind of going back to what you were saying before, it's more of a state of mind.
Right.
For you, like your freedom is a state of mind. It's
Right.
your confidence, your self-esteem, it's how you feel.
Right.
Are nudists really free? Like, to me, I don't know, because you still have to place yourself in a category for something. Like they still, okay, say if you walk the street naked, you still have to define yourself as a nudist. You're not, like, it's not, and I saying, like, oh, well, you're still a box of something. Like, it's not, it's something.
It's actually a paper you gotta get to be a certain
Yeah,
person.
it's still lots of something.
That is a brilliant question,
Yep.
because so we talk about freedom, but how does that measure up against the idea of labels, or boxes, or images? Or, I mean, you check yourself on boxes all the time, on forms that you fill out. So how does that compare, how does that interact
Defining you or
with freedom?
combining you by saying you're in this category or space of you're a nudist, you're defining yourself as that. So you're saying even if you have to define yourself or limit yourself or put yourself in some sort of box, then that means that you're not free completely.
I kind of think too much freedom is a bad thing. It is definitely because so if the reason is like because what you want. Our freedom, if our freedom is blocked for some reason, sometimes it could be a good thing. Because with too much freedom. I remember I was talking right, so you know, just saying. But too much freedom would mean you could do anything, and I mean anything. So that means pillage, kill, destroy, just ultimate chaos. It would be legal and everybody could do it.
So it kind of goes back to what we were saying a minute ago. Where's that line between your freedom and someone else's freedom? So if you have the ultimate freedom, what does that mean maybe for my freedom or for someone else's freedom?
It sounds like you're talking about that freedom's a huge responsibility.
Yes.
If you can ruin someone else's life with your freedom, I mean, you can't get anything more powerful than affecting someone's life.
No glasses here.
I wanted to say something about what David said about the whole label factor earlier. You know, yeah, there are labels on people's and such, and also you gotta remember that, well, you don't have to, but in my opinion, society is very contradictory. For example, prime example, the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, you know, all of that stuff that, you know, America is based off of. So it's like, are we really free? We're not free because we have these rules and regulations. You can't have a rule saying that we're free, telling us that we're free. It makes no sense, first of all. You know, so just America, just life in general, it's just full of, you know, unsuspected events and like, it's full of contradictions, in my opinion. So just anything to happen, like time.
Okay, so let me ask you a question before we go into our small groups, and I don't want any answer, I just want you to raise your hand. Raise your hand if you think that you are free.
We're gonna go a little bit further, and we can talk about a whole bunch of barriers to freedom and different definitions of freedom. But we want you to take that to current day, and want you to talk about what groups are marginalized today.
So if you sit around and you use Ebonics and stuff like, oh yeah, he's probably gonna be ignorant or something like that, they automatically put you in a box. Like your first day at school, you go to a new school. First day, you're in a box. Somebody's gonna put you in that category.
So does someone putting you in a box infringe on your freedom? Does that limit your freedom? Is your freedom defined by
That
how
can.
someone else labels you, or is your freedom defined by your, what did we say? Your own state of mind?
Yes, they can.
I feel like an outsider, like everywhere, like I don't feel it now that much, cause I don't, yeah, but like, back then I felt it like to the extreme, cause everywhere I go, I knew that there was like, it's not like I didn't know, like I knew that absolutely no one could understand what I was going through at one time. There are people that do, but if they knew, but if they like they didn't make it, they made it like very apparent that they weren't going through what I was going through, or they made a better, like they did a better job at hiding what I was going through, because I did a bad job. Like you could tell I was on gay free rate from 3 months away. So it really sucks, and it was hard. It really just awful. And coming to terms with it it's hard still, like waking up every day and being like, oh God, I'm gonna go through some crap today, or maybe I won't, and that's gonna make it a good day. So I look at the brighter side, but sometimes it's like I'm just gonna have to go through some crap, or I have to like my mind's, because I don't trust people. I might hear something, like someone might say, get that bag got, or I don't know any type of thing, but I might hear the F word, and then I'm all like, oh. But you know, you gotta move on.
When you're ignorant, you don't really know freedom, so anything could be freedom. And when you're dead, you know that's the ultimate freedom, because you do whatever you want in death.
Discussion for a minute. And this kind of goes, you know, you guys kind of picked up on talking about judging, and everybody judges at some point or another. So what we want you to do this time is, when do you think you've made someone else feel like an outsider?
I think I may feel people like an outsider when I say I'm like self-like Spanish people, and like I just speak Spanish, and even if there's like someone who speaks like a different language in the group.
Because like I feel like that when I see two people speaking Spanish, and I'm like, because like they like laughing and having such a good time. I'm like, what are they talking about?
I'm just curious, like that's so cool. Like it's just so cool being different culture.
Actual freedom, after I actually think about it, is death. Really? Yeah.
Have you ever experienced that?
I haven't experienced, but what do you have to worry about? You don't have bills. You don't have worries. You don't have relationship problems. You don't have school. All you got is death.
So you don't have a brain to think, oh, I'm finding free. But you don't have anything to say, oh, I'm finding free.
I mean, you don't need it's all about the mind.
You're just empty.
Exactly, you're gone. You don't have anything to worry about. You don't have a brain. You don't have anything to think about. Freedom is what you think of. I think when you're free, you're dead. Dead people, they don't have a thought. It's just, to me, it's just like infants or babies. They don't have a thought either. I think freedom is whatever you make it. I mean, you can do, right now, you know, even if you're being told what to do by people, or you're in a house, you gotta pay bills, blah, 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 you can still feel free. I mean, when I think about it, like I don't mean to be disrespectful or anything, but when I think about it, because freedom basically came from back in the day when slavery was going on. And I feel like it might have been something that, I don't know how to say it, but the white man said.
Well, set the whole time, wait, what?
About to say the salt is in the air.
Oh, no, he didn't.
There you go.
Alright, so continue. Sorry, y'all.
I feel like that's where that the white man came up with, so black people could feel free. So they could feel like they were free, you know, even if they were out, but, you know, they still wasn't. You know, it's just something that they could put in their heads so they could feel like they could do whatever they want, but still not being able to. Because they thought it's not being told what to do, or, you know, being a slave home or whatever. think they just made it up just so people, black people, feel good about being where they are, but they still had to, be told what to do.
So do you think when slavery ended, do you think the newly freed, if you want to use that word, for lack of a better word, but slaves thought, that they weren't free?
To me, even now, it still wouldn't be freedom because, yeah, we have a black president, but he can't even do it. Like, he still has to go through other people that are also, they're white and they're black, but the majority is white. We've got a little bit of freedom. To me, I think we do have a little bit more freedom. As I said, freedom is what you make it. You can do whatever you want. I feel like we're a little bit more free, but we're still, being kept inside. It's still a big, giant house.
So therefore, everything you see is you're not there. You don't have free will around here. You don't have freedom at the same time. Because if you were able to have that free will, doing everything you want to do in your mind, but you're not doing everything you want to do in your mind. Because it's always something out there stopping you, whether it's society, physical, mental, anything. It stops you from thinking of that thought. The thing that I've learned in my past was that crazy people will always rule this world. Because they think outside that box. They think outside that society or whatever is going on. Because you think they're crazy, but they're picking up new ideas like the White brothers. They made an airplane which was actually ludicrous to that time. And they had the heliocentric theory. That was ludicrous to Christianity because they said that you'd be outlawed or killed if you thought of the heliocentric movement, which we actually found out that the sun was actually in the middle of Earth. But the sun was in the middle of the solar system, Earth. So, due to our society, everything we do as a sane person is always be bound by that. We won't have freedom. We won't have that free will, that outside the box thought at all.
Like knowledge, money, and power, like those are the three things that can make you attain freedom. And nobody really has all of those. They'll have like two, but they can't attain a third one. I think freedom is something that you can't reach until humans actually reach another level of intelligence that we haven't reached yet. We're intelligent beings. Like we have malleable intelligence where we can learn from looking and seeing around us. So that's kind of nice, but we haven't gotten to our full potential of our minds.
You have freedom. You have freedom to do whatever you want. You can shoot.
She had freedom to paint her shoes like Basquiat.
You can do whatever you want.
Sexy kicks.
Even if there is consequences, that's still freedom. Even with those consequences, you still have freedom after the consequences. Going to jail, you have freedom. Use the bathroom. Go to sleep.
I like what he said, freedom is a state of mind. That's the best answer ever.
The best answer to freedom is being yourself. That's the best thing to do. Be yourself regardless of what the consequences come up. That's the most freedom you can ever have.
Well, from this whole project, I've learned that life is full of inevitable circumstances and changing events. Life is not perfect. Life will never be perfect. And the problem is we always search for that one thing that will make life perfect, like freedom. Freedom is something that will make life perfect. But life will never be perfect. So we have to realize that freedom is not really something that we can really attain in the fullest sense, Yeah.
How has learning about African American history impacted your thoughts about freedom or perspective?
Well, it made me think about the things that I go through at school and how a lot of times I like to think, oh yeah, because I'm, African American, like I can have this like little chip on my shoulder saying, oh yeah, I'm like, I should be able to like cry about some stuff, be able to be sad about some stuff because like for the stuff that like that has happened. But I realized that really we all go through the same thing, not just like African Americans, like anybody, being race, religion, sexuality. It's you just have to learn how to deal with it and learn how to like love yourself. And yeah, that taught me that.
So has this project influenced you in any way or changed the way you think about things?
Well, it has taught me to like look more within because you can't always think like something that we do is like we look too much within and we think only about ourselves. We have to also think about others and like how not only like others but how others relate to us and it relates to the relationships we will have in life.
Oh, well, I have learned that we say that we're different, but we're not. I mean, we do have our likes and dislikes, but in the end, like, I found out that I think a lot like they do. I might not express it or say it, but we still have the same thought process.
Has learning more about history and having these conversations, have they changed the way you think about things? Have they influenced you at all?
It has. I mean, I had already had discussions like this in class, like what is freedom and things like that. So, like, when we went and talked about this, there was, like, a lot of things in my head, like, that was like, yeah, this is how this is. Like, I don't believe we have freedom, actually, because I feel like for an individual to have freedom, you would have to hinder someone else's freedom. So, I think freedom is just a belief.
During this project, I learned a lot of things that I did not know because, like, when I go to school and I learn about, like, world history, they really don't, like, touch the basis of, like, the civil rights and stuff like that. They don't really touch the basis about that anymore unless you have that class. Like, if I wanted to go and learn this kind of information, I have to literally go and apply for, like, that class or sign up for it in order to take it. So I said that, like, it just really kind of took it out. And when we have, like, African American, like, February, like, you barely hear anything about, like, civil rights or nothing. It kind of died down a little bit. Like, I remember every time when it came around February, we used to, like, okay, we're going to talk about this. Like, we actually had good discussions, but now it's just like, oh, y'all know this month is such and such, such and such. Okay, that's it. Go on with your work. But, like, when I think about freedom, it's just that freedom is what you want it to be, but it's also how you see it yourself. Freedom is just like one of those things that just like it's there and it's not there. Because when you have when you do some things and you achieve and you feel like you're free, you just have barriers that come after that, and then you're like, okay, if I do this, I'm gonna be free. Then after that, more barriers and more barriers. So I think free is just something that helps you, that just shows, like, kind of gives you faith in your life and just shows you that if I do this, my life will be better. So that's what I basically think and what I basically learned.
I learned that all around, the planet will go through the same things that it has before. Like, it's just repetitive history. We're not going to change exactly, but we will. And through that, the problem will change. It was going to morph, and it's going to try and adapt itself to what's going on today. Like just like freedom and how slavery was. Like, back then, yeah, their freedom was just being not a slave. But right now, we're all a slave technically to the dollar, or we're a slave to our house, or we're a slave to the problems around us or the environment around us. So, like, there's nothing really that has changed, but it has. So a problem will just morph, and it will overall just take control. So if there is, we'll try and get over it. We'll try and get above that problem. But in all, it will just morph, and it will come next year or some years later. We'll go through a time of peace. Yes.
Has learning more about the history and having these Perspective shifted at all?
My perspective on things, like, I've always had an open mind. I've always seen more than one side of everything. So my perspective hasn't really changed. It's just seeing another side of something. That's all I have to say about that.
The other side, something like what?
Like the whole freedom and am I free? I thought that I was kind of, but then when I look at it, I'm like, I'm not free. I'm in a place that I don't want to be right now. And if I am free, or if I were to be free, I would have to not know that I'm like caged or buried. So, like what was said, like only the ignorant and the dead are free. So I'm neither one of them. So I'm gonna keep trying to educate myself on what I'm doing to be free.
I learned about the African American struggle, and I learned that our struggle has advanced from slavery to, unfair working conditions, separate but equal, into nowadays, where nowadays, in my own opinion, we separate ourselves. We make ourselves seem like what we don't want to be. Like, we tell everybody, oh, we don't want to be categorized as this, or we don't want to be seen as what we don't think we are, but then we act like it. And yeah, I feel like being hypocritical is the worst thing you can be. So by learning this, I've taken to myself that if I say I'm not something, I'm going to try my best to better myself so I'm not that. If I say I'm not a thief, I'm going to do everything in my power not to ever steal. And that's what I've learned.
How has this project and these conversations, have they influenced you in any way?
I have to say, for sure, the conversations, they let me know that Behailu is family, and that I can trust Behailu, and I can tell them if I have a secret, I should be able to keep my secret within my family. So.
Have the conversations influenced you to think about anything differently, or to rethink things, or think about things you hadn't thought about?
They have caused me to question freedom, and when I questioned it, I came up with my definition for it, and when I came up with my definition for it, I've lived by it. And my definition for freedom is knowing your boundaries, but pushing them to their limits.
I learned that not everyone's freedom is the same. Not like two people's freedom is the same. I think that freedom is whatever you want it to be or whatever your heart desires. Because some people, they'll always be chasing freedom, but they'll never find it or they'll never be satisfied. And some people, like, they're happy where they're at, or just like the simple things bring them joy. And I also learned that. Ran out of words.
Okay, so in the evenings when we come here and we have these conversations, and even the conversations we had after watching the documentary, the Children's March, have they influenced you in any way?
It influenced me to think differently and be more open-minded. Even though I've been told that I'm like a really open-minded person, it like helps me even like pay attention to things around me more, or see them in more than one way. And I also learned that freedom, like, you can be at the age of 5 or 50, and you know that if you want it, you'll do whatever it takes to get it.
What do you think about your ability to make change?
I think that our ability, it depends on how bad we really want it, and if we truly believe that if we do a certain thing, that we can achieve it. And if we don't have enough belief in ourselves, then we won't be able to do it.
Anything else you want to add?
I like the discussions, and they help me because I got to know how everyone thinks other than my own self, and seeing like everyone's point of view, because it makes me think back on what I think. And I may look at something or think about it differently because of what someone else said.
I've learned a lot from the discussions. I've learned about African American history, and I've learned about problems in society that I never really thought or really knew about. And it's made me think a lot about the things that I already knew about, but it gave me different ways of looking at it. And it's I've learned a decent bit from it.
Would you say you changed through all the stuff we've done, all the stuff we're going and watching the documentary and all the discussions and the presentations?
I feel like it's my ideas haven't really changed. I've just gotten more things that will kind of bring more ideas. It's given me different ways to look at things, and it's given me knowledge about things that I didn't even know about. That will create more ideas and more things for me to learn about and create more ideas and thoughts.
So I definitely learned that youth, our generation, we all have something to do with it. And the generations back in it, because it all boils down to youth, and we all had something to do because somebody said in the room earlier, well, yeah, something about youth, and I believe a young mind is easy to manipulate. So when you cause that young mind to believe something benevolency, then we could really make a change, or we can influence to make a change. So. But what I learned from the whole experience, sorry, back to your question. What I learned from the whole experience is just there's different kinds of way to be who you are and express what you've been through, regardless of who you are, what race, gender. There's different kinds of ways to be yourself.
Have these conversations or any of the experiences related to this, have they influenced you in any way?
They actually have influenced me. Well, I learned to stay who I am. Because who I was to begin with, I was a shy person. I didn't know who I was, and I still sometimes don't, because I still question, who am I? What do I do? What's going on in my life? And they've just influenced me to, just become stronger, have more pride in myself. Take pride in what I have and what I do. And just continue to let me strive forward. Stay true blue to you. Stay true blue to you.